This coffee's really hot. Ooh. Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. Today's video is going to be really cool because it is the first outing that I'm taking you all on with me, and it's an outing where the photo that I got wasn't the one I expected. So I went to a place called McConnell Springs, and it's in Lexington, Kentucky. It's a place that I visit quite often, and it's really accessible to the public, so it's really easy to get to, and all the trails are super easy to walk on. I went out there for two reasons, basically. One was to get a photograph that I've gotten before back in the fall of this really massive tree that sits out there. And I want to figure out how I can take that photo when it snows out. Thankfully for me, as I'm recording this video, it's snowing outside. So I'm going to post this video for you guys probably next week. So that way you can, see this video now of me kind of checking out the surroundings and the sights and everything else again with the snow in mind, and then what it's gonna do whenever I get out there. It might be completely different, it might do completely different stuff. So one of the reasons why I went out there was it was my birthday, and I decided to go out there and just have some fun and just hang out before I had to do anything for the day. Just kind of a way to relieve my stress. And the second reason why I went out there was to take a photo of this really huge tree that sits out there. It's actually so big and it's leaning over in such a way that it's held up by beams. And it's a really cool looking photograph, but it's also kind of complicated because there's lots of trees behind it and around it, and it's super massive and wide. This video also talks about something called tracking, which is a mindfulness practice that I like to use with my clients. Basically, when you're having super uncomfortable thoughts or feelings, it allows you to scan a room and your environment to find something to distract yourself with, so that way you can bring yourself to a calmer place. I'll talk about this a little bit later in the video, and I'll show you how I do it in a photo sense. So I'm heading in to McConnell Springs. Like I said, this is a really cool place that you can come to with your family, I've seen like school kids out here. I've seen all kinds of people out here like taking field trips and stuff. So it just kind of shows you how, easily accessible it all is. And you can take lots of different paths. So one really cool thing over here is this cabin. And I've tried taking pictures of it and have been unsuccessful in the past. So we're gonna see if I can have any luck. So something that you can do with this tracking method is you scan an environment until you see something that's interesting to you. So if I just stand here in one spot and I look at this cabin, I try to look for the things, not just in the whole of it, but even like the smaller details that kind of catch my eye. So I'm really liking the shadows over here going up and down with the logs going across. So I'm going to start by zooming in with my camera and sharpening that. And then what I want to do is kind of move in closer to it to try and see what else I can see with it. I think what I really like is how you see these logs poking out, but these logs going there and the shadow going up. So I'm gonna scoot back a little bit. Once again, instead of moving my zoom lens in and out, I'm just moving my body. And I'm finding a couple different spots to focus in on. And then kind of darkening this a lot. I'm keeping my ISO at 100 and just moving my aperture and shutter around a lot, so that way I don't have to worry too much about noise. Now these pictures may not turn out to be the most intense, exciting magazine cover photos, but it's kind of not the point of it. The point is just to get out here and take photos and have some fun with it. So if I'm examining this a little bit more, if I'm spending more time on this cabin, obviously there's tons of moss up here on top of the roof of this cabin, and I can start to pay attention to it. I kind of like the moss hanging down from here, So let's see if we can get that into focus. Now what I'm doing also is, if you have a phone, more than likely it's going to do kind of a good job at blurring and sharpening certain things, especially more modern smartphones. But I oftentimes like to take my image sometimes at a kind of like an overall sharpness, like everything's kind of sharp for it. That way I can blur things later on. And then, you know, I can adjust my aperture if I want to practice that skill. So I'll do that right now. I'm just going to take my aperture to something like 5.6, and I'm going to zoom out. That way I can actually drop it lower to 3.5. I'll zoom in with my feet, raise my shutter so that way I kind of don't blow out the highlights in the back. And I'll focus and take the photo. So that little tip there for doing that in the cabin is something that a lot of photographers would naturally do. But it's really good therapeutically too, because when you're obsessing over like a particular thought maybe, or a feeling that you have, you can kind of back up and rethink it, see it from different perspectives. And that's what photography teaches me a lot, is not to become obsessed with one thing, but to see things from lots of different vantage points. So I'm on my way to the tree that I'm wanting to take a picture of, and I don't know if it's because things are dead and I can see things a little more clearly, but I'm starting to notice kind of the beauty of some of these paths here. So just kind of like looking ahead of me, and you can see this path right here, and it doesn't look super cool on the video probably, but I'm gonna try and take a picture of it because you got a couple trees kind of hanging over the path and the little leaves kind of sprinkled throughout it, and I want to see if I can get something in it. So I don't know if you can see some of these leaves down here, but yeah, it kind of leaves a cool little trail running through it. So I'm gonna take a picture of that and see what it looks like. So right now I'm gonna focus on the trail ahead of me, and I've got a aperture of 4, and now I'm gonna do the leaves closer to me and get lower to the ground. All right, let's see how that looks. So I'm here at the tree, but before I take pictures of the tree and start talking about it, I wanted to talk about therapeutic photography a little bit more and why I think it's beneficial. So therapeutic photography, it's really no different than regular photography. Everybody finds photography to be pretty therapeutic, unless you're someone who doesn't find photography therapeutic. It is something that you can do where you still do photography the same as you typically would, but just with more intentionality, and oftentimes kind of with that specific purpose to take care of yourself. Kind of what I'm doing is I'm just kind of going out and taking photos just because I want to have some fun with it. I want to experience nature. I want to experience the photos. I have a specific thing I want to take a photo of, and it's going to make me happy to take a photo of it and edit it. So I can do a little bit more therapeutically and have more control over it. But what this does is it helps you practice, so that way when you are going to that gig to take a photo of or a video of a corporate thing or of a car or of a wedding, whatever it could be, you can now start to put into practice some of the skills that you've learned. So like the tracking, You know, maybe you feel so rushed taking photos of all these people at this wedding that you look back on it and all of a sudden you realize that you've missed so many people or you missed so many things or didn't get some of the cool shots that you were wanting to get. And what this can do when you learn these therapeutic skills is it can help you to just slow down and just kind of track a situation. It can help you to take a breath, to have a moment for yourself where you're not just going. It can help you to slow down and recognize, okay, this is something I need to just take more time on and focus on and examine the situation. So this is just one of the skills, this tracking skill, and like kind of deep seeing. You know, it's a mindfulness skill that you can use for photography. So, you know, therapeutic photography doesn't have to be anything that's different from your regular photography. It just enhances your regular photography. All right, so let's take a picture of this beast. So in the past, what I did is I came over to this little nook right here, and I have a feeling that this is what other people have tried to do too. And I try to get kind of a really big wide angle shot of it. Here's a couple things you could do. I just have an 18mm lens that I am taking this photo with. With that wideness, obviously you can see, like, I can get a lot of the tree in focus, but I want to get like all of it in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take multiple pictures and at multiple different settings. So I've got 125, 13 aperture. I could probably drop that lower. A 10 aperture, 200 ISO. And I'm going to start taking some photos. So I'm actually going to raise that shutter up a little bit more. So 1, 2, 3. Move over more to the middle of the tree. 1, drop it down to the middle. 2, drop it down to the base. 3. Then I'm going to move over to where these beams are. Do 1. Actually, I took 2. 2. Raise it up to the top. And 3. This tree said, "I am not a tripod. Go get your own." So I got the camera. I got the picture I was coming here to get. We'll see in the editing process if it actually turned out to be what I hoped for. So now what? Well, I could just have focused so much on this one subject, but I'm going to try and explore this subject from other angles, from other vantage points, because just like, you know, you might have something that you're so focused on that you just want to get so badly, but you have to take a step back from that and ask yourself, well, what else is there to this? What else is there? What other possibilities are there? Just like a thought or a feeling that you might be having that's overwhelming to you, you have to take a step back and ask yourself, like, is this it? Is this really what's going on? Is this really the biggest issue happening right now? Like, what else could there be? What else is going on? What other vantage point could I look at this from? And that's what you want to do. So take a step back from this huge subject that I've got. Let's see what else there is, not only in the tree and with the tree, but around the tree as well, and see what other kind of fascinating things that I could focus on with that tracking and deep seeing method that I was just talking about, to see how we can use that to explore other places around here. And at the end of the video, we'll talk a little bit more about how you can use some of these even more so just on a day-to-day basis. All right, so we just got a photo of the tree, but now we're gonna do some tracking and see what else we can find on this. So you guys are gonna be in the video. I would really love to hear your guys' comments on this tree and on the surroundings, and tell me what you think I should have focused on, what you think I should come back and focus on with this tree, because I'm only one person. I only see things from my vantage point, and I would love to hear what you guys are seeing on this tree from never having seen it before, and tell me what you think about it. I think obviously the first thing that I see is this big hole up here that's going on. Obviously that's really cool. And then there's this crack down here. I'm a sucker for these cracks at the base of a tree because it kind of reminds me of like gnomes and fairies and cool things like that. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna start by using a pretty glow. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna start by using a pretty dark setting with a big aperture. ISO at 200, shutter speed at 250, just to help with any camera shaking. Now I'm gonna lower my shutter speed. That'll bring in some more highlights, but hopefully not anything crazy, and it'll help bring up the darkness a little bit. And now I'm going to drop my ISO, lower my aperture, so that way I can get a nice blur effect, and then raise my shutter to get the same kind of dark light settings, but now with kind of a different focal effect. And I've got this focused right on that hole there. All right. I think the other cool thing to hear from you guys would be to see like how else could I have taken the photo that you guys are noticing. Something I am trying to do is highlight the leading lines of these tree limbs, these tree trunks, to really show off just how insane they are. Something I've wanted to do in coming back here is to highlight these beams a little bit more, because I think it's cool how they hold the tree up. And so I'm gonna get kind of goofy with it and try laying on the ground, and hopefully there's not too many passerbyers who I get in the way of, but I don't see anybody here. So I'm as wide as I can get, so I'm gonna try and do this pano effect again. 1, 2, 3. All right. Hopefully that turned out well. Hey everybody, so thank you for watching the video. I really hope you all enjoyed it, and I want to go over just a few more things before I end this video. So number one is to talk a little bit more about what are these intrusive thoughts and feelings, these uncomfortable thoughts and feelings that you might be having that you need distraction from. When this happens, when you start to feel overwhelmed, you can be sitting anywhere. You know, let's say you're on vacation and you're at a restaurant and all of a sudden you get a text that your car was broken into back home. You're gonna panic. You're not gonna know what to do. You're gonna start talking to everybody, trying to figure out what to do, calling the police, trying to figure out if there are people back home who could help you. And while you're there at that restaurant, you might have to take a second to calm down, so that way you can kind of function properly and be able to talk with people. So something that you might do is, while you're sitting there, you can kind of do this without people knowing. It's just kind of scan the room, look around the environment, maybe it's your menu, just really dial into something. Find something kind of complex and interesting that you can look deeply into, and use that tracking and deep seeing method that I talked about earlier in this video, but with your eyes. You know, maybe just get up and walk around and move closer to something. Something else that can be really helpful to do when you're out taking these photos is to carry a journal with you, or a small notepad, or just your phone, and write down the thoughts and feelings that you're having while taking these photos. So something that you might be having going on in your head is thinking about the board meetings you got, you know, picking up the kids and things that you have to do with them later on in the week, and just all the stresses. And it's almost hard to enjoy the moment that you have right now taking these photos. So instead of thinking about all those things in that moment, just take a breath and start this tracking method. Start focusing on all of this stuff, go through it, do it like I practiced, and then start writing about that. So don't write about all the other stuff yet. Start writing about how you feel about what you just took a picture of, what it was like to take a photo of it, what you might do in the editing process when you go back to your computer for it. And once you're done writing down what that photography moment was like for you, then revisit all the things that you were thinking about before and ask yourself, do I still need to worry about those right now? Or can those wait until I get back home at least? And the majority of them are going to be able to wait until you get back home. And so doing this helps you realize, okay, when I'm getting flooded with all these thoughts and feelings, I can actually take a second, do this motion, and distract yourself enough to where when you revisit those thoughts and feelings, you realize, oh, they're not as intense or as dire as I thought that they were. So I really hope that this helps you all out. I really hope that this video is effective for you and you can take these skills and go out there and do them yourself. Once again, use your smartphone, use a regular camera, use anything. Just go out into the woods and use your eyes and hold up your hand, or draw things. Whatever you can do, you can use this with anything. I just encourage you guys to go out and do something like this now. And I can't wait as well to show you the snow photos that I'm going to get and the snow video I'm going to get. I'm literally going to go out tomorrow and do this. So thank you all very much, and I hope that you will like this video. Subscribe to the channel, tell people about it so that way they can practice therapeutic photography as well. Hit the notification button so that way you can be reminded when I put out these videos, and leave comments below so that way I know what kind of things you all would like to see and what you're thinking about this, so that way I can try to adapt it to you all as well. So once again, thank you very much. I hope you have a great day.